All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Secretary, please do a roll call.
Director Cudahy?
Here.
Director Nash?
Here.
Director Durr?
Here.
Director Coleman?
Here.
Director Riccio?
Here.
Director Castleton? Here. Director Johnson?
Here.
We have a quorum. All right, would everybody like to make a motion to approve the agenda?
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All right, motion made by Director Riccio, seconded by Director Nash. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You guys have it, the motion carries. Would member like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
A second.
Motion made by Director Nash, seconded by Director Castleton. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You guys,
Sorry,
yeah. Abstain? Do you
Not
need
really.
a roll call?
I don't think so, right?
All right, you guys have it and the motion carries. All right, student showcase.
Hello, my name is Isabella Richardson, and I'm going to be talking about how the orchestra spring break trip was very educationally valuable. One of the main reasons was the culture. It was so different from here in America. We got to see a new way of living, just day to day, the way they talk, what they eat, how they dress. It's just completely different, and I think it's interesting because we got to learn that. Another educational thing was we got to visit a lot of historical original sites like the Colosseum, Roman Forum, and so many more. And I think that was super interesting because we got to walk the same steps that they did many years ago. Lastly, we went to this instrument museum and we got to see instruments from way back then, original, like made from different woods, strings, and I think that was super educational because we play orchestra and you got to see the original instruments and then you come home and play the modernized version of that. I think some of our favorite parts of church were all the places that we got to go to, like Tuscany, San Gimignano, Rome, Florence. But some of my favorite parts in general were the tiny little cars, the Fiat Pandas that you could see in America, or like all the good gelato that we ate and other good foods like pizza and pasta, or like all the shopping that we got to do. And there were so many different stores that aren't here in the US, but they're here in all these different places that we got to go to, which I thought was very cool. Or even the gondola rides, which were very fun.
Hi, things that really surprised us, that were very different from here in Cudahy. The schools here are actually very different, which they prioritize things like cleverness and, really, being able to cheat, instead of being very honest, because it was often seen as very smart to be able to cheat your way through. And cobblestone roads, oh my God, my feet hurt so bad after that, I will be honest. I bet many other people did too, and like you had to walk everywhere is the other thing. So you had to walk for like miles. There was only like roads were very short. You had and like you only have really taxis and the tiny cars. And don't get me started on the bathroom situation. You could never find them anywhere. Like I had to sit in line for like 20 minutes, like just because there was only 2 of them.
Well, to conclude, despite the bathroom situation, it was an overall great experience. I would go back despite that. It was really great, honestly. The food, the scenery, it's all life life-changing thing. I got to see my friend from Romania, it was really awesome. And I went with the same orchestra a couple years back, Scotland. Yeah, Europe is a very important thing for the students to be doing. You know, leaves them an impression and gives them an opportunity that they may not later in life have. So, you know, in conclusion, it's pretty sick. So, oh, questions? Questions?
Oh, I have a question.
Yes.
So to the girl in the black, how awesome was it that your really cool mom got to come on that trip with you and experience it with you? I mean, was that like the highlight?
My mom was with me. It was pretty cool. Love my mom. Any more questions?
Good answer.
I guess that concludes that.
I'll ask a question. If there's any teachers, staff members, or families that are watching, is there anything, any advice you give for kids that are considering to go on a trip like this in years coming?
Well, go. I'd say that. Make sure to take a lot of photos. You know, there's a lot of things that you tend to forget, no matter, you know, how cool they are. Take a lot of photos, specifically digital camera. It's got a great effect. Any more questions? Okay, cool. Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, thank you guys. Hey, we're done. Comments and communications.
There we go. Okay, I just wanted to give a brief update, because I did attend our SWSA, meeting 2 weeks ago. And at that time, as you all recall, the big, issue was the just passed, joint deal that was being put together for the budget, modifications, so that we could get some money from the schools, get taxpayer relief and refunds to the property owners. As you know, that all fell through. And so we are still working as a result of that happening. We're continuing pressing forward with our normal channels, working with our legislators. I just talked to one yesterday. And we are hoping very seriously to have some more positive results come the next session, because we know that it came close, and it is something we just have to keep pushing to be able to get some relief for all of the school districts here in Wisconsin, so that we can have a little easier time of balancing budget. So that was a highlight. We did go through and they shared some additional continuing education opportunities, and some of those were pointed out by Superintendent Garvey in her newsletter, so I won't repeat that. And our next meeting is going to be June 9th. It's going to be a hybrid meeting, so you can be in person or virtual. So I'll have hopefully more to report that day.
So, as we all know, there's going to be a lot of construction going on in the school district of Cudahy, and that means that we are going to have some limited pool opportunities this summer. So St. Francis did reach out to me, and they did talk to me today, and in an effort to be to work collaboratively to help meet some of our needs for the construction period. They have added some additional opportunities this summer, including a new car club and some expanded swimming times. And in an effort to make it a little more accessible and a little easier on Cudahy residents for the summer, they're not going to be charged a separate non-resident fee for like St. Francis residents, but instead they're going to pay one South Shore rate for participation. They're hoping with this cooperation, it's helping ensure that our seniors continue to have access to important recreational and social opportunities while we're making this transition in our buildings for our safe and secure entrances. I did bring some flyers that they dropped off today to leave, and if anybody wants to look at them, or if anybody wants to take one, and then we will post those, and we'll give Amanda some copies to post as well. But so they are wanting to let us know that they care about our residents too, and that they're that they see that we are going to be struggling this summer, because list for some things, okay?
Is a couple things. Last week on May 20th, I went to or attended like a virtual workshop, a school board champion onboarding workshop that was hosted by Wisconsin Public Education Network. So thank you to React and Penn Dumbek for sending me that invitation. I'm going to share out the slide deck that they shared with me to you guys, but I wanted to tell you about it first. There's some really great information that they shared and even some visuals about just like the state funding and even some things that then we might be able to take and modify to then share out as we're trying to continually like educate public and other people in our community. And some interesting ideas came from that. Maybe even possibly like if we were to partner with CEA members, and then as we're trying to, and like hosting an event maybe with CEA to like educate public around like state funding or doing things like that with them. The other thing I just wanted to talk about is bringing up the staff retiring with extra PTO time, and so just as we are keeping that in mind moving forward, if you know we can be evaluating that and you know looking or keeping like moving forward how we could be creative for staff and respecting that time when they're retiring with those extra hours. And then the last thing is just our recorded meetings. So kind of bringing that up. I know we've been looking into that and talking about that a lot. So I don't know if that's something that would be voted on or like how we go about that. So I'm just kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should discuss it more and figure out what the retention looks like. Obviously, thank you, Michelle, for getting the information for us on that. You know, so I think on the technical end of it, there's definitely plenty of solutions out there, you know, for doing that. I think we should just pick one and one that doesn't cost an arm and a leg because we don't have the money, but you know, figure out what a solution might look like and then bring it up for a vote at some point. You know, that makes sense.
To just ask that question, is this something then that needs to be in policy, or is it, and or how it, is it something that needs to be voted on? Yeah. So we would, yes.
Right.
Okay. So we would look at policy and bring it to a vote.
On that topic, I'll just say that that was also a topic at the common council meeting. They've been talking about their system there, and there was some information that was passed out by a resident there. I did ask him to email me that information just to send over to Tom. I'm sure it's stuff that you already know, but just nice to hear some of their struggling with some of those solutions. So I will send that forward to you and the other technology member people, and you can take a look at it and see what you. Any other board member comments?
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so we'll look at that policy and bringing it to a vote. All right, so committee meetings. We have one academic achievement committee, but I know, Carrie, you were also at the common council meeting. So since you already brought that up, let's do that first and then wrap it up.
All right. There's 2 common council meetings a month. I usually attend both of them, and so it works to just give a summary every month about the common council. So over the past month, the common council has spent a lot of time discussing long-term planning and some community engagement. One major topic is they're talking about a capital improvement plan for the next 10 years. In addition, celebration, the city hosted an open house that was to give residents opportunity to speak directly with department heads from police, fire, and DPW. It's plainly obvious that much like the school district, the city is facing years of deferred maintenance and infrastructure needs. Similarly, we just did a facility study for our district, and in order to accurately assess the needs and develop a responsible long-term plan. At the same time, it's equally clear that residents are concerned about rising costs of living and the overall tax burden. Throughout these discussions, there's also been a strong call from the community for more information, communication, and transparency from local governments. And at the last common council meeting, the council approved Katie Castleton as the new board health representative for the school district. We definitely appreciate her willingness to serve in that role and to strengthen collaboration between the district and the city. Additionally, I was appointed and approved to serve on the celebrations committee, which held its first meeting last week. This year is especially significant because we're celebrating both our nation's birthday and Cudahy's 120th anniversary. The committee discussed ways to spread the word about large fireworks displays, the upcoming community celebrations, as they will be reaching out to the district and I believe the rec department about promoting events through the rec newsletter and the communications magazine. I did give their communications people your emails, and what they do with that is it goes from there. But I would also encourage all of my fellow board members to consider signing up to participate in the parade. I will email you all the forms in case you haven't gotten them. And the committee also shared that this year, last year they didn't do children's bike parade. Kids don't look great. before making that possible change. Science instruction lacks alignment with and consistency with outdated resources not fully being utilized. Plans include piloting a new science curriculum for the K through 4, which is free for the pilot year, and then implementing a new aligned curriculum for grades 5 to 8 starting next year, with cost plans into future budgets. The hope is that discussion highlighting past inconsistencies in curriculum, review processes, and communication with stakeholders. The efforts are underway to standardize the procedures, documentation, and feedback to include digital tools for ongoing and input from teachers. There was an awful lot about literary progress and challenges. So reporting on equitable literacy practices across the merged in our elementary schools, with improvements in writing and SRSD, which is self-regulated strategy development, approaching focus on informative writing. The writing samples show growth, which was nice because samples were provided to us at that committee meeting, so we could actually see some progress in person. Then there was Act 20 compliance is complex, and while overall risk levels decrease from 23 to 10% for some students do remain stagnant. With targeted coaching and deeper phonics instructions are planned to assist those students. Special education students are increasingly included in general classrooms with aligned research-based interventions. Our attendance issues significantly impact achievement. The attendance committee has worked on consistent coding and family engagement strategies, so we're looking to make improvements across the board. Middle school literacy and study sync implementation. The district has shared progress with the study sync, noting the challenges with the product's range and student engagement. Goes into the Lexile information, but keys to literacy coaching supports the standardized instructional practices and accountability, and the middle school is laying the groundwork so that when we get the high school curriculum, it will be kind of flowing right in. With the math instruction and supports, district-wide math vision walkthroughs. The district is collaborating with CISA to develop a unified math vision to have common walkthrough or common tools and align with educator effectiveness evaluations. It aims to support principals and coaches in a consistent instructional expectations. With elementary math progress, reported positive reception to the Bridges curriculum, and then the introduction of a free fluency program called Fluency by Heart for next year. Math discourse and active learning have increased student engagement. The Gifted and Talented program, they got a grant, it was $35,000, and that is funded curriculum kits, professional development, and family engagement events like game days, enhancing math learning and leadership opportunities. The middle school math instruction is now iReady. It was presented at the detail of the instructional framework, emphasizing problem solving, discourse, and student ownership of learning through the iReady curriculum. The teachers use observational tools for feedback and encourage productive struggle and goal setting among the students. The efforts to increase use of scratch paper during diagnostic improvement, improve student performance, and visual models and math talk are being promoted to deepen the understanding. It was very helpful having that visual on the board during that. And then the high school math challenges and curriculum considerations. Just that discussion was acknowledged ongoing struggles with the math achievement despite students reaching Algebra 2. Concerns include lack of visual models and engagement in the math discourse. Proposed shift back to traditional math pathways is supported by teacher committee feedback and ACT data, emphasizing on making math instructional more visual, joyful, and conceptually clear. So that was a whole lot of stuff, and if I misrepresented anything, feel free to clear it up. But I had other stats and things, but we don't need to go through all those because you guys did that very well.
Anybody have anything to add at the committee or?
I just want to say, the committee reviewed it talks about ACT score data and discussed several factors impacting this year's results. Mr. Hager, our high school principal, was there, and he did explain that the statewide ACT scores were affected by the changes to the test itself, including a reduced number of questions, which altered scoring trends in comparisons to prior years. And I can personally attest that this has been a statewide issue, just not something unique to our district. Also, concerns arose if you have a student that took the ACT test, you would have gotten an email that said there were some scoring inconsistencies at the state level, which required portions of the ACT exam to be rescored due to reported errors in the scoring processes. So, yeah, so that happened, and it was,
That's nice.
yeah, well, and I'll tell you, just from talking to our counselors, you know, they were like kids looking to retake the test. Sites were like filling up right away, and you couldn't find a place for kids to retake the test, and then it was 2 weeks later we got this email, so.
And to also add, ACT did say they were gonna send the real score to colleges
Okay.
as well as a part of their process, so that's good,
I would hope
but
so.
yeah, it is.
Right.
Yeah, they said they were gonna send the new scores out, and then that most of the scores, if not all of them, either stayed the same or rose by a point or two, pretty consistently across the board, whether or not you scored lower on the ACT or higher. But then those official new results will come out to us on June 2nd, but they've already been released to the students, with that email that you're talking about, ACT. Mm-hmm.
Okay, any other academic achievement committee comments or questions? More?
I have some questions, but I suppose, I mean, like, I can just direct those to you, I suppose, like, I don't know that we wanna, like, discuss it, I just think, I know that there was a lot of discussion about the high school math curriculum, and so I guess just some of I've been researching it since I left, so I just have a couple, like, questions, and you can just get back to me whenever, is that I know we talked a lot about the difference between, like, standardized and then in integrated, and I know that we picked a company that, and I was just wondering if we weighed, if I see that company does both, so did we look at both of them, not for the six, but I mean, did we look at their integrated version and their standardized version, for that particular one? And then I guess it's, for me, I know that the head of that department is leaving, and I'm assuming that they had a lot to do with picking the program. And so I just wonder if it makes sense before we make a long-term curriculum commitment that we evaluate it a little bit more when the new person takes over. I mean, I know this isn't coming to us yet, so, but I just have a lot of, I guess I have a lot of anxiety because we're talking, it's a significant curriculum adoption. And with a leadership transition in the department, it makes me very nervous to commit to a curriculum adoption like that. So I don't know, you guys were at the meeting too. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
I did send Jenna a really long list of questions
Okay.
actually today, and so I'm sure some of ours probably overlap,
Okay.
so hopefully.
Yeah, and I would say to answer all of those, I'll answer them, and then I know with you, Melissa, where I'll respond to that, but include all of you so you can see those answers. Because yeah, you're right, the person that was leading that charge won't be coming back with us next year, unfortunately. So I can get a lot more information from him prior to him leaving. But the good news is there's still a lot of time, so at least to give us a chance to give you some of that info that you want before ever bringing that for a vote. And if there are some additional things that we can do, you know, as far as looking at some additional resources, I think that's a possibility, absolutely. There's no need to rush something if it doesn't feel right, right?
I guess the only other question I would have is kind of going back to the novel study, and I saw your email today, so thank you. I don't know if other people have this similar question, because I know that in the committee meeting we had talked about it. Just that to clarify, when those novel studies are chosen, can those be brought to the board and then just make sure that they are, you know, included somewhere for like families and,
Yeah, if we choose, because of the huge list that City Sync does provide, and we wanna cross-reference that with books that we already have or might wanna use, if there's any books that have not already been board approved by you guys, that would come to you before we would push it into the curriculum. So yes, you would know that before the start of the year.
okay, thank you.
And I just want to say thank you too. The Academic Achievement Committee obviously has a lot under its umbrella, and you are working on creating a new curriculum review cycle, and it's a big undertaking, and we recognize that too, while you're also trying to refresh all this curriculum that we kind of needed to refresh sooner than now. So I thank you for that work, because it is a lot, and it's a really robust committee meeting to be a part of, so thank you. All right, any other final comments on this committee? Okay, so moving on to reports. There are 5 reports tonight, 2 are kind of just folded together, but let's start with the superintendent's report.
All right, thank you. I want to start tonight with just sharing with the board that our current strategic plan is set to conclude at the end of 2026. And I know I had shared some information and some suggested ideas into, use the term rolling the plan over the next several years. As I shared at the beginning of last year, the leadership team worked with us in doing a refresh of the strategic plan. And we have some time yet before we really need to look seriously at bringing in some consultants and working with the district. But I was just looking for some feedback on the direction that the board would like us to go as a leadership team with the information that I provided. So any feedback on how you're feeling about the current strategic plan and our 4 areas for our priority work?
Thank you. Yes, I think that based on the information I saw and the recommendation from the superintendent, it makes sense to me. I think that the idea of a rolling plan to continue the work that we started and to keep the foci where they are and to make sure that we are working all together to make that happen. I don't disagree.
Okay, thank you. That's a
Same.
okay. That's a great setup then to go into our budget update. I was very thrilled that no one brought up the lack of funds when we were talking about curriculum, because curriculum has always been my area. And I would be remiss to not mention, over the last several months, we have been so, I'm so grateful to have Elise from Baird working with us to help us during our time. We haven't had a business manager, and I'm even more excited to see our new business manager sitting out in the audience. I really wanted to welcome her right up to one of the seats, but she doesn't officially begin until June 1st. So there's Natalie out there. Let's give her a wave. We're glad that she's going to be joining us. I do want to present Elise's report for May. It's in your packet for you to review. But I think there's several items of importance that we need to share publicly. I think what is important to keep in mind, and the focus for me is in the 25-26 budget, salary and benefits continue to track generally in line with projections. However, the district continues to experience structural budget pressure and will need to maintain restraint in discretionary and operational spending through year end. I think some of the things we're talking about today, curriculum, PTO days, all of us feel so many things are priorities and so many things are important to us. However, we have a serious budget problem right now. And so we're going to have to carefully consider every single purchase we make and every single yes we say to whatever comes before us. So these are really important decisions. Cash flow and short-term borrowing. Current cash flow projections are more favorable than previously anticipated, and June equalization aid and open enrollment receipts should provide sufficient liquidity to repay the district's $5.5 million short-term borrowing obligation, which I know is something that everyone was very concerned with, so that's good news. In the preliminary 26-27 budget development, preliminary projections currently reflect a structural deficit exceeding $500,000, which will require continued review of expenditures, operational efficiencies, and revenue opportunities moving forward. And then we've all talked about the budget repair bill. I don't think we need to go through that again, because frustrated with that. Areas that she recommends requiring continued monitoring: maintenance services, utilities, people transportation, technology-related hardware and software, textbooks and instructional materials, and contracted services, and certain operational support areas. These are things we all need to think carefully throughout the rest of the school year. Is this really something that is integral to move forward? We had a meeting today with Elise and many members of the district office team to really weigh, is this something we can get through this year without, or is this something we can postpone to the next several years, so that we make sure that we are only saying yes to things that are of the utmost importance right now. In terms of the preliminary budget, as I stated, the instructional deficit is still exceeding $500,000. We'll need to review all operational areas to identify opportunities to enhance revenues, reduce expenditures, or both, in order to move toward a balanced budget. The current things that the business office has underway, and I just want to send a shout out to everyone who's in the business office right now who's been helping out. They have been implementing measures intended to stabilize the current year operations and strengthen financial oversight, including ongoing review of budget to actual expenditures, continual monitoring of high variance accounts, year-end expenditure control procedures, cash flow forecasting and liquidity monitoring, grant reconciliation, analysis and claiming of available expenditures. This has been huge. Heather in the business office has been working with every single department head to really make sure that we're moving things into the proper grants, proper accounts, to make the best use of all of our resources, and that has really made a difference. Audit, corrective action planning, balance sheet review, excuse me, and bank reconciliation cleanup, and then preparation and preliminary 26-27 budget projections, so that we have everything prepared for the board in June. So there's been a lot that has been happening, and then you have the year-to-date financials and the cash flow estimate reports for you guys to review also. So any questions? I'm sorry, that was a mouthful, but anything that you would like to ask, of course.
Of course. So, and I understand what Barrett said about the $500,000 gap where we are right now. And I guess my question is, next month, when we get a preliminary budget, will that, is a goal there to present a balanced budget? And if not, would there be the option of having two versions, one that was the one that might be what we need, and then here's one if we have to present a balanced budget, here's what we would have to do to make that balance. You know what I'm saying? Because I understand the issue that we have right now, and the structural deficit is $500,000 is still not a small chunk of change. It's a significant part of a $40 million budget. So I think we need to look at what we can do, and if at all possible, present a balanced budget. But at the same time, I think we need to know how those cuts or revenue enhancements or expenditure reductions were proposed to be in the budget, so we all know what we're voting on.
So this would be my non-business manager answer to this, and please don't judge me now that we have our business manager sitting there. In my previous district, we would bring something like that months ago, prior to, so we would probably have three scenarios for you, because we would be presenting three different types of cut level, for lack of a better term. However, we're already in May. We have already analyzed our current list of staffing reductions. We have done, and Ollie, you have a wonderful sheet that literally Jenna Kinney today said she checks it almost like Facebook. What is the name of the sheet you have?
It's a teacher contract tracker.
Teacher contract tracker. So we have documents set up so that we're really tracking our staff. We're doing a correlation between the staff, the account, where it is held in the budget. At this point in May, it would be very difficult to bring 2 or 3 different budget scenarios, and then where else can we cut? Because we are down to bare bones, and I don't know, Ollie or Jenny or Jenna, when you think about where else could we cut, it would be very difficult because most of our budget is held in salary benefits. So my very long answer to your short question is, my guess is, because we've already thrown in the Parkview check, and we've also thrown in the Jones rent, the leasing rent. And so this is a pretty close estimate of where we're gonna end up. because there isn't anything left to cut.
I ask a clarifying question, because I know we've seen a couple different fair reports, but then does that include projected savings of the closures of schools, like, energy savings? And does it include those projections?
No.
Okay. I mean, it's probably a small fraction of 50 or 500,000, but.
Right. But I think there's a couple of things to keep in mind. We have summer school at Cudahy. We will cut off some utilities, but still there will be, those are things that are very hard to project. And utilities, if I'm correct right now, are running over budget, way over budget. So we do have a metering system on our utilities now that should be able to help our new business manager track those things more accurately. But I think it's gonna be a little bit difficult to project that right now.
Thank you.
I don't have a question, I just have a comment, because now we're talking about all of this budget stuff. We get to the bottom here, we're gonna talk about this curriculum. I just wanna make sure that we're being really transparent and saying the curriculum that's on the agenda for tonight has already been budgeted for, correct? Correct. Okay, so it's not like we're adding on top of things. So this is something that we've already pre-budgeted for. And from what I'm understanding from the academic achievement is you also were able to get a really small rate and a way to pay it off over some time, just so that we're being really clear that we're not just adding more money on top.
And I'll give a specific example. Each leadership team member specifically asked Elise today, these are things that we will be bringing to the board. Should I bring it? Asked a very specific question, or should I hold off on bringing it? She gave personalized advice to every single department head on when we should time things and when we should bring it.
So to kind of just quickly recap and follow up from Jim's question, we will in June receive some kind of preliminary budget with a plan for this $500,000 projected deficit for next year.
Yeah, Jim's question was, is our goal to get a balanced budget?
Right.
I think overall, my personal plan would always be to present a balanced budget. I do not anticipate us bringing a balanced budget this year. There's not time. You want to start that, I mean, you know that, there's not time. Unless you have a trick up your sleeve.
No.
Okay, so you go to everything.
I'll take a couple of the corner.
We've been practicing that. Any other questions about the budget? All right, shaping our future together, implementation planning timeline. I'm very excited the district office will begin its transition to the new location starting June 1st. Just like when we had our elementary buildings and our middle school transition to temporary locations, we want to do this very seamlessly. Our school families should even notice that we're moving. We have each department moving a separate day, not next week, following it. So everything's mobile. We have a couple of people sitting here right now that are literally either working out of schools, working out of their cars, or working from their houses at times. And really our community has noticed that. That's exactly how we want our district office move to the approach. So we're excited to finally make that move. Then also in terms of our branding and marketing committee, I provided some information on our survey data that came back. Amanda did a really nice job on providing some feedback to the community based on our students that gave us something really to think about at our last branding and marketing meeting. And it surveyed really well, and the community was really on board with our 7-12 Packers. And so unless the board sees any concern with that, we'd like to 5-12. Thank you. Is the 5-12 Packers, are you gonna have a junior Packer for the middle school and then the actual Packer is high school, or are you doing one Packer for the whole? I believe there's already a junior Packer, correct, in the rec department? Yes. And so the committee that night said we have to have some conversation before we make those labels. We haven't determined that yet. We don't want there to be confusion, and so that's gonna be a leadership team discussion. Are the junior Packers for your rec programs and previous other things, is that junior Packers, is there like a fluctuating age and grade involvement with those programs? So where they're only like middle school age, or they include littles?
So for example, like our, club basketball program, that starts in 5th grade, and they're classified as junior Packers.
Align with potential type eight
Yeah,
middle school.
the football tackle program is a junior Packers, we will have a team this year, it's a 7-8 combined. But we're indifferent if it's junior Packers, it's, like, nothing changes on our end in terms of colors and.
Sure. The decisions that were timely to involve that, that's why we're bringing that back to our leadership. Okay. Any other questions on that? Then, we have Anderson, Brokers here tonight, also along that line, tying together our funding concerns. We feel that it is imperative that we begin marketing, Cudahy. He will be here tonight discussing marketing strategy, and we have a contract on the board agenda. I know we had initially thought we would bring that a couple months ago, but we feel the timing is a little more appropriate now that we're having some summer school activities over at Cudahy this summer, so he'll be here tonight to discuss that with you. Then also our spring survey results. If you remember a couple months ago, Amanda had put a survey out to our community, to our students, and to our parents. She's working on putting that data together for you. She have that in June. And then Jim, you already handled the SWASA updates. If you have any questions on that, Jim and I can follow up with you. Otherwise, I don't have anything else for tonight.
Anything additional for the redefining strategic priorities?
No. Okay, thank you.
Yes. All right, so on to board retreat report and summary. I linked some documents in here for us to just make sure that we proofread together. But I first just wanted to report out on the retreat. Obviously, we did a few things, and we kind of talked through some of our board strengths, board challenges and weaknesses, areas we can improve. We had a lot of alignment and good reflections on our strengths and weaknesses. So strengths summary was, we feel like there's more communication between administration and the board with the committee model. We do appreciate the committee model despite maybe challenges with it, at least for the first year. We felt like kind of across the board that there was more collaboration between board and superintendent with the transition work for 5-8. Also progressing well, more accurate data with Baird and the building audit and academic and attendance data that we're receiving from departments. And then we kind of talked about wins like the GM award and grants like the math grant, the Lincoln Playground, things like that happening that are just celebrations. Weaknesses summary, we said some of our systems, avenues of communication to the public and community are weak. We recognize that. We also talked a little bit about committee meeting notes because we weren't taking any, and we are now. Thank you. And we're going to kind of continue that. I think that's going to be very helpful. We also talked a little bit about wanting and needing more community involvement and readiness steps with the communication to the community, particularly around education on topics or what it is our work is involving exactly. And so we have some progress on that I can share in a moment. We also talked about some older norms, and I put them into the document, and we can talk about this now. Some older norms that used to be used by the board to just kind of update that. So if everybody had a chance to look at that norms document, I included the district, goals and some standards. I also included what it means to be a citizen in a Cudahy building. So the whole, we as Cudahy board members value responsibility, respect, commitment, and integrity. So students learn. But if there's anything, this is just a draft. So if there's anything we would like to add, all I did was kind of clean up the language that we had from those original forms. So there are 5. Does anybody feel like there are any that we should add? Anything that is missing from this list?
I thought it was well-rounded.
Okay, so I feel like this is pretty standard for a lot of districts to have on the website, along with the board, like on our board page. So I can coordinate with maybe getting that on there. We also then worked through the schedule for our committee and meeting minutes, or meetings, sorry, not meeting minutes, our meeting schedule and dates, which took a little longer than we intended. And I came back to it later on, we like appropriately got cut off. So I'm sure everybody has looked at that already. Any questions on that, or does anybody notice any errors, anything that needs to be there? Okay, and then the last was the roll call and committee assignments, which I did kind of flip a couple of people because in looking at that, initially, not everybody had a chair, was a chair, so everybody has a chair position now for those committees. Any question on that? Okay. So the last thing that I wanted to touch base on, and this leads into the president report, which in the future, I may not always need this. There are just some things I wanted to make sure that we covered since this was my first meeting. And in the future, if I include it on here, thank you, Rhonda, I will make sure to note what exactly I will be reporting out on. But one of the things that we had talked about as a part of our spring highlights document was community outreach for committee involvement. So there is a Google survey for anybody who's interested in emailing and inviting people to fill out a Google survey for anybody interested in the academic achievement, communication, or community and rec. So we decided to start with volunteers there for both community and then student volunteers as well. And we'll coordinate with students as like August and fall approaches. I can send the link out to everybody. It will also be in our spring highlights doc, and Amanda can include it in the June newsletter. We can push it out however we want. If anybody has any additional ideas on how we want to encourage people to fill that out. But then the idea would be hopefully over June, July, selecting individuals to be a part of those meetings. And then taking it from there. So starting with just a few committees and then from there kind of expanding out for more community involvement. So that is a Google form that we'll expect in your inbox. Any questions on that? The spring highlights doc, I transferred all of it over into SMORE, but I shared that with you guys before. So as far as the report out, I just wanted to look forward to our fall highlights. So as we think about what to include, I thought about one-pagers of the Baird and CSA 10 reports, really digestible, one-page, like kind of highlights and summaries that we might include as people are gearing back up to go back to school in the fall, as well as Mike Hacker is putting together a list of capital referendum projects with dollar amounts for those capital referendum projects for us that we can include in that. And that's especially important once we have all of this like construction work done. And perhaps also a video. Katie, I know you had talked about videos before. Do you want to like talk a little bit about your thinking for the fall highlights doc, or?
I know everyone loves to be videotaped. I just think with our community, there's some that are going to read every word, and there's some that would really rather just watch a 2-minute highlight video. So my kind of thought is with our board highlight that we're putting out, that if board members that are comfortable, we could rotate recording a very short video, literally just talking about what is in that month's like highlight. So just kind of briefly going through and talking about whatever is in that month's or like that season's. So if it's like celebrations, any committee updates, budget updates, policy updates, like whatever is talked about, you're just doing a very brief video talking about that. So that community members have the option to watch that video or read the document. Just really covering our bases and helping to get the information out to everybody in the best, whatever is best for them.
Everybody feels so compelled for a video in the fall. You know, I think the more that we can get information out to people, the better. And I think the notes for the committee meetings, now that we are doing that, those type notes will help, all of it will help. And then the other thing I just wanted to remind everybody of are important dates. So Katie's gonna be onboarding June 16th in the morning. All board members are invited to attend. I think the thinking is we're gonna save building tours for fall, when we can all tour buildings and see the new entrances. And then other important dates, the superintendent evaluation on June 15th at 6 p.m. I did, thank you, Amanda, for making copies. There are two stapled sheets. If you can prepare some thoughts around, the second page is the dates rubric. So obviously it lists the standard, it lists all of the criteria under that standard. The first page is about what the research says. So just come a little bit prepared. I'm touching base with Tim from CISA 6. He's not going to be joining us this time because that costs money. He's going to talk with me for free on the phone, and we're gonna get it all squared away so that we can do this right in Frontline together in the very moment, and we'll just project it on the large screen, and that's how we'll do the superintendent evaluation on June 15th. So mark your calendars, June 15th, 6 p.m. Middle school graduation on June 10th, and then high school graduation on June 11th. The last quick thing before we move on to the AGR reports, the last report is just the change in the action items. So for public comment, they'll always come right before action item, but after our, information session. And then if we can just try the Robert's Rules motion first, open it to discussion on the table, and then a vote after discussion, obviously letting the administrators and others present first, then we motion, then we discuss, then we vote. And that'll, I think, just allow us to amend, have more debate, and I think maybe revisiting that next month, feel out how it went. We can certainly talk about it, but I think it's worth just trying out. Okay, that is all from me. Any questions? Okay, so AGR reports.
Okay, so the purpose of this report is to present the fall, winter, and spring AGR progress and performance data. So both GM and Lincoln are AGR schools for us, and a part of the AGR program requirement is to have performance objectives, and then to document our progress throughout the year, come back to see what strategies are working, what we might need to work on and adjust, things like that. So I did link in all the fall, winter, spring for both schools for you guys to see. The main performance objective for both schools, kindergarten through third grade, was to look at our reading and math screeners, which we use Ames Web for reading, and then our fast bridge assessments for math, and looking at our progress from fall to spring. The biggest one is we wanted to see, obviously, academic achievement and those screener scores raised, but specifically looking at those students that score well below in those categories to get 50% of those students to move up, which was a strategy that was really supported by Schools Cubed back when they came into our elementary schools, and something that they're continuing to work towards in our as part of our AGR goals. Some of the highlights and progress I listed on there, which was cool to see. Kindergarten math, 100% of those students made gains by the spring semester, from the fall to spring, which is really, really nice to see. We tend to see that in those younger grades, but that's still really awesome. First grade reading at Lincoln, the students scoring at 50th percentile, above the 50th percentile grew from 44% to 64%. And in grade 2 math at Lincoln, the students scoring above the 50th percentile grew from 66 to 80. And at General Mitchell, kindergarten math students scoring above the 50th percentile grew from 58.8 to 80.1%. Second grade math, our students that were scoring above the 50th percentile grew from 35 to 44. And in grade 3 reading, we saw a raise from 53 to 81. So that wasn't every single category, obviously, that we're looking at with our goals for AGR. Those are just some of those highlights when you're looking at that data, which I just think is awesome. And this is directly aligned as well to our school improvement goals. So for the future, I would like to work closely with Matt and Mike to look again at what our strategies we're using. We had a discussion about this early on in the year of what strategies we wanted to use. And for AGR, you have to use either one-to-one tutoring, reduced class sizes, or instructional coaches, and, we've used all three of those in the past, and you can use one, you can use three, you can use two. But we talked about using that largely for our instructional coaching and one-to-one tutoring if possible. And I think that's the strategy that we're gonna use next year. But I'll work closely with Matt and Mike to go through what our performance goals will be, to make sure that that's also aligned to what our school improvement goals would be. And it's nice too, with the consolidation of schools, we'll have more students in both of those buildings. And obviously this program is for kindergarten through third grade, but because we're getting those students from Jones and those students from Cudahy, we were able to get more funding for AGR, which I think it's just gonna benefit our kids. So that's exciting to know, and hopefully we'll continue to see this growth. Yeah, so this is that report. If you guys have any questions for me in the future, I plan to bring this like at each semester, and it would be nice to have Matt and Mike to come along with, to be able to have some of those discussions as a group, since they're leading that work in those buildings.
Of course, that was one. So how much more funding were we able to get at each building?
That's a great question, and I knew that might come up. I don't know the exact dollar amount. I have to get back to you, but I know it was a good amount.
Okay.
Yeah, because the funding dollars, I think, came out around January, I want to say. But I can get back to you. I can get that really quickly for you. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you. All right, moving on, any public comment?
Public comment.
Public comment. All right, moving on to our action items. So first, recreation summer camp lease.
All right, thank you. Tonight for the board's review, we have attached a lease, and I know several board members have sent me several questions, and I've asked our director, Tina Craiglow, to share some information with you. I know we reviewed a couple questions today, and she does have some information to share with you tonight, so I'll turn the floor over to Tina.
Do I need the microphone, or are you guys good? Okay, thank you. Well, I mean, Justin, do you have some of your specific questions that I can answer? Like, why don't we jump through those?
Yeah, definitely. Just let me pull up my document.
I know one of them was just about the
approximate hours.
the hours,
Yeah, the
the
hours.
coordination of hours, and it does say approximate because in a camp situation, if it's a rainy day and we have to spend more time indoors, that's where we're gonna use more hours. If the bus is running late, we may not use as many hours on that day indoors. So it is a general approximation of when we're going to need the space, which Omar is very comfortable with. He has had opportunities to rent the facility during the week, and he has declined all of them.
Okay.
So I feel really comfortable that we're gonna have the space that we need.
Sounds good.
Responsibility matrix, we talked about providing that.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
So,
so for who's doing what, kind of
Yep,
the mowing or the cleaning or whatever it is, right?
sure,
Yep.
sure, and because there is a third party involved in this with British Swim School, we've
Yeah.
already met with all of the stakeholders to determine who's cleaning what, who's in what spaces. We clean our spaces, they clean their spaces, Omar cleans his spaces. But we can certainly put that into a more formal document for you to take a look at.
Okay, sounds good. What else did I have? Schedule that. I think those are the major.
I think those were the two
Yeah,
main
those were the
ones.
two major ones. Yeah, they
Yeah.
were. Yep. I didn't have anything else.
Yeah, I mean, we had, my dates are all sort of melding together now. I don't remember if we had our meeting before we had the parents.
Because you had the walkthrough with the board first, and then you had the.
And then we did the
Saturday meeting with
subsequent, yeah, with the, with families. And it was a great attendance. We had about 60 families present. I think a total of about 75 with kids included there, and overwhelmingly, people, I don't remember who was all at all of that, but you're able to see it. It was a fantastic walkthrough. Everybody really loved it. They were thrilled about the space and looking forward to it. So.
Katie, you had some questions?
Yep. So I guess my first question, in the meeting of the electors, it kind of was presented in a way that during camp hours, we would have exclusive use of the property. And then it's kind of coming up that the British Swim School will be there. What days are they there?
Tuesday morning, 9 to 10:30. And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 4 to 7.
Okay. And I guess just the way that some of the timing is written, it does leave some vulnerability for him to extend, open up to the British Swim School for additional classes or to lease out to other people. And I guess that is concerning to me, that for both the pool, and then what was the other space? Even the classrooms, it's a 9 to 4 when we'll have students there prior to. And I understand we might not need that space until 9, but just the way it's written is concerning that he could potentially lease it to other people, which then is allowing, it causes safety concerns for me, where there's people that we don't know in the building. So that's, how are we going to make sure, are the doors locked? Can we be factoring in people that are coming into the building that are not with camp? I guess those are my questions.
Sure. British Swim School is the only other tenant that he has during the week. I spoke with Omar today, and he assured me that he does not. Again, he's had opportunities to rent in the summer during the weekdays, and he has declined those. There is one day, July 3rd, where he does have a prior rental that was booked like a year ago. But guess what? We don't have camp on that day, so it all works out for the best. So I don't see any conflict in that. He has offered us other spaces in the building as needed. He does have a soccer rental group starting at 6 o'clock out in the field. He does parties on Saturday nights, but that's it. That's his own.
Then is there an issue with rewording in the lease to kind of close that off, I guess? I mean, there's a difference between his word for it and it.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
My experience with him has been, he's an upstanding man who sticks by his word. And given our conversation today, and I expressed the board's concerns about having any other rental groups in there during camp time, he assured me that would not happen.
But then you can probably write it down for us, at least.
Yeah, he could, here's my concern,
Yeah.
is that a lease has to be executed tonight in order for us to move forward and start moving our stuff in. And if we change the context of that lease and it has to go back to an attorney, I worry that we are now delaying and we won't be able to set up.
Can I just ask a different question? So this is a camp program, and Tina, maybe you know the answer to this. I know that my stepson, for the last 3 years, and he's in 7th grade, has gone to camp. This is camp. This is not a daycare. This is not school. He's gone to UW on basketball camp. There's not a raptor system. They're not locked in. There's no security. He comes and goes, and anyone can walk in. So I appreciate all of our concern for safety, and I have never known Omar to be not trustworthy. But in terms of this is a camp program, my experience is only with schools, it's not with a camp program. What is the typical safety protocols for camp versus a school building? Because the camp experiences, now my children are much older, but my stepson, when he's dropped off at camp, they don't go through Raptor, there's no security, and anyone can come and go as they please all day long. And he's in that same age group. So I don't want Omar to feel like we're trying to create a prison situation over there. But I want the board and our parents to feel like Tina's creating a safe camp experience. Where's the line? That's what I'm trying to understand here.
Yeah, I think those are good points, and that, I've been running camps for 35 years, and
they have all been done in community centers that are open to the public. Every single one of them, I've been for 35 years. There are camps that are held in parks. In the YMCA, we ran half of our camps, out of 30 camps that ran in the summer, 15 of them were run in parks. Access to anyone. So that is not the standard. And I would think that given the very limited exposure in the building, I don't know who we would be raptoring, to be honest with you. That's not just, because it's not any different than what we have at the middle school. And we have our summer meal program, which is by law, we're required to have that open to everybody. So I don't see much of a difference, frankly, that it will be fewer people on site at 3244 than are on site here.
So I will say a few things. One, when it's at the middle school, and there's, the swim program or people like that, it's through the rec department, right? So if there was an issue with someone in a swim class, like Julie Bach could look up who that is.
Sure.
With the British Swim School, that's a third party, so we don't know who those people are, right? So I
They
guess,
have somebody on site as well, right? They would have their version of Julie Bach right
but
there.
that's not with our program. So that's the difference for me. Okay. One of the reasons why we opted for this space opposed to Cudahy was so they were not running around in an open park, right? For that safety and security, for the exclusivity of it just being our students, but now it's not just our students. And so that's why I'm having this discussion now, because that's how it felt like it was presented to the community last month. And now it's not that way. And so I'm just trying to clarify and talk through some of this to make sure that we are now off-site, which I think is, provides something different. It's not our school, it's a new location. And so just making sure that we are being as safe and secure as possible with a new location, with a third party that is not with our rec department. So that's why, and Omar is not, I don't know him, I'm not saying that he's not trustworthy, but I don't know him.
Yeah.
And
Could I
Yeah.
just interrupt for a moment? So I just want to clarify a point for the whole board. It was my understanding that we chose to go to the Y and not Cudahy, not because of the inclusivity, but it was because the camp parents preferred to have swimming offered. I just want to make that point. I see Chris shaking his head out in the audience.
I think that was a big part
And
of
that
it.
there wasn't the fields and things. So I just want to clarify that for the board, that it wasn't because of safety concerns.
Can I also interject? Do you have any other additional information to share with us before we motion, discuss further, and vote?
I don't think so, unless there's any more specific questions.
I know we're switching up the order and how we're doing it, so we'll probably, we can ask you
Yeah,
questions
okay,
during
okay.
our discussion.
Still might have-
I just don't want to get
Okay,
too off
good,
track,
good,
and I want to
yes.
make sure that everybody has a chance to weigh in. So does the member care to make a motion?
Okay. I motion to approve the recreation summer camp lease agreement as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Director Durr, seconded by Director Capella, that we approve the recreation summer camp lease agreement as presented. The matter is up for discussion, so the person that makes the motion can speak first, if you would like. And then we'll call.
Sure. Tina, my question would be, is during these time slots, the British Swim School is in there, will our kids also be utilizing the pool at that time, or will they not be utilizing the pool at the same time? That's my question.
No, the two paths shall never cross.
That's what I would like to know.
Sure.
Okay.
And just to add to that, we are using separate locker rooms. Even if there were an inadvertent, there are 4 locker rooms. We are using 2, British Swim School is using a different.
I don't know what Justin's questions were earlier that you were referencing to, but when I look at this lease, there is nothing in there regarding the lawn care or any kind of upkeep that the school district.
Oh, we do have it in there too, yeah, I actually missed it the first time too, it is in there. Amanda, do you remember which number that was under, at least the premise? Number 2, was it?
So,
Yeah. Where?
Nope, not that one. We did go over this several times, because I missed it myself.
It is number.
7? Number 7.
Number 7. Yep.
Tenant is responsible for cleaning and lawn maintenance.
Under maintenance and repair. I see it now. Okay, the one little slick little sentence.
Yeah, okay.
Have we as a school district evaluated what that is going to cost us as a labor side of things? Because I believe that our rent was factored in with the savings of us doing the lawn care, and I'm just curious, what was the savings on the lease versus what we're going to be responsible for as a district to have that care and maintenance done?
I think Matt has reached out to our lawn service provider, and I apologize, I don't know what the quote was on that.
We can get those.
Yeah.
And
But-
yes, it was.
It was factored in.
That's what I
Yeah.
just want to know.
Yeah, thank you.
Then, so with the dates on this stating that will commence on May 28th and terminate on August 29th, we're just renting this, leasing this just for the summer camp program duration, correct? Which doesn't start till June something?
June 15th.
Yeah, we're paying lease a few weeks prior and
Um,
a few weeks after.
There's a lot of setup that's entailed between moving everything that we have from here over there. We're gonna do some cleaning of the property to make it camp ready for us. We're gonna do some training over there of our staff so that they have on-site training as to where everything is. And then we have obviously the cleanup and wrap up, and camp will end, it's 10 weeks, so whatever that, I believe it's on 21st is our last day, and then we'll have a week to get everything out.
Just a reminder, some of you may not have been in district office right now. The whole wing is shut down for construction, so they also have lost some space to train. So that's part of the reason too, we have to go over there a little bit early.
Okay, because I was gonna say, I thought the cost per month was like 12,500, and when or something around 12,000 lease per month for this, and I was like, okay, well, if our program is only 2 months long, why is this now being more like 18 grand? But if we're utilizing it for that longer duration, that makes sense.
Yeah,
So-
these have been the dates since we started the discussions. We knew that we were gonna have these additional training needs. Like I said, again, the moving of everything is extensive.
All right, thank you.
Other questions, thoughts, conversation? Can I just raise, maybe I'm misreading F, but I think perhaps as we examine these times, like it is a big list of times, it is these really specific parameters for each location, so that the pool, the outdoor field, the gym and locker rooms, the classrooms. But F is the ability for the tenant to make reasonable modifications to the foregoing schedule to accommodate its community programming needs by providing 2 days advance written notice. So if in the event that there is crossing of paths or entities in the building, am I reading it correctly that F would allow us as the tenant to make some requests about a schedule change?
That's how I would read it, and in a conversation with him today, the tenor of the conversation was, if I get any requests, I would bring them to you to see if it works. If it doesn't, then I will not take them.
Okay, and then if that was the case, you could request changes to our times.
Sure.
Is the amount that we're paying, the $37,000 that we're paying based on these times and these spaces, is it square footage based for those times, or is it not that?
was a little bit of a negotiation, to be honest, and so it was more, he wants this, I'm willing to pay this, so we come here.
Other questions or thoughts at all from anyone? Tina tried to get even lower.
Oh,
Yes, thank you.
I talk about the goodwill in the community that this would be. Omar, you just want the people to come, trust me.
Okay, any further debate? All right, so the question is the adoption of the motion that we approve the recreation summer camp lease agreement as presented. Those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
The ayes have it and the motion is carried. Summer camp staff pay schedule. Tina? Okay.
Sure, we have been pretty far behind in compensating our camp staff. And so working with Ale, we work to rectify a market adjustment for the staff, putting into place some really clear guidelines on what that means if you're placed into various categories. So for example, right now we have new staff because we're trying to bring them in a little bit higher because our rates were awfully low, like coming in at $9, $8.50, $9 an hour. So we're bringing staff in a little bit higher now, but there are staff who have been with us for like 5-6 years who are not far off from that then, just because we haven't made that market adjustment. So the document that you have in front of you is a summary of that.
Does any member care to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the summer camp staff pay schedule effective for the 2026 camp season.
Second.
Motion made by Director Drew, we're gonna call that seconded by Director Johnson, that we approve the summer camp staff pay schedule effective for the 2026 camp season. Matters up for discussion.
The only question I have, Tina, is that, do you already have enough staff for the summer camp for this year?
We do. Okay. In fact, in putting this summary together, I think it was about a week and a half ago, I actually overestimated the number of hours, so the dollar amount that's reflected in this will be slightly less. But yes, we are well staffed.
Second question is, just so it's pretty transparent and clear, the money for this comes out of Fund 80, correct?
Fund 80,
Thank
correct,
you.
and it is budgeted for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Just looking at the breakdown of the compensation levels here, there's quite a lot of tiers and levels. Is that the norm, or is this unique to how we created it? Because when I had looked through this, what really caught my eye is, when you get to the E level DE, and some of it is like to have college degree. Do you really need a college degree in a related field for $15 an hour under counselor level 2, or is it going to school for a college degree is the term? Because I look at it like, well, if I've got a college degree in that field, am I seriously only getting paid $15? Because that's just my thing, and
They're working for less right now.
I know that hurts because
I know.
Okay, so I was on misprint. It was
It's
actual.
not, and I agree with you. I think it's a lot of tiers. And I think we just try to be really explicit about the rate itself versus having a range, because I think then it just becomes a bit too arbitrary of where we land. And we just want it to be really consistent across the board.
And that's fine. I'm looking at this from like HR side where you're like, oh my gosh, you're how many and this and that, and like all the lead up work to say, okay, you're hired, you're at this amount.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to figure that out? Where are you gonna place?
Yeah, and I think I would like to add, when Tina, Ally, and myself sat around the table and brainstormed, we were finding that prior to this, there was a range, and that brought its own complications. Because then different staff got placed at different rates, and then to find the rationale behind that became a little challenging, and then co-workers talk, right? So to me, clear is tight. And instilling this new module is also thinking into what is this gonna look like for next year and how are they going to move if they return? So we build that in our.
Okay, well, thank you for the clarification. Questions?
And that was, I think, I kind of answered most of the questions, but as I look at this, like, tier two, counselor level two, that would be a natural progression to go from a 2A to 2B to 2C. If you stay in that tier, you could then progress to a head counselor or do something else, and that puts you in a different step or ladder, so to speak.
We have a very high retention rate. We have a higher than national average retention rate of our camp counselors. And I mean, much like we've talked about with our teachers, right? We want to retain good teachers. We want to retain great camp counselors because that is really the essence of our program. And I love the fact that many of our counselors have come through our camp program. And so when campers can now see a path for themselves, and yeah, I mean, it's what we talk about in tradition. Camp is all about tradition, and I think we execute that really well.
Okay, question is the adoption of the motion that we approve the summer camp staff pay schedule effective for the 2026 camp season. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, the ayes have it, and the motion is carried. District Consolidation Moving Services, Copley Brothers.
Thanks. Thanks, I'm presenting this for Matt Billmeyer tonight. I wanted to share that on behalf of the Building Disposition Committee, which is Matt Billmeyer, is normally the business manager, and Cadence Consulting, which is Mike Hacker. They are recommending that you approve a contract for Copley Brothers Interiors to work as our vendor to perform the work necessary to complete building moves. They did look also at Capital North American Moving Services, and Jim had asked for the question before the meeting, wondering what were some of the criteria. I know we have worked with Copley Brothers in the past. I did not sit in on these meetings, however, I do remember both Mike and Matt talking about there's a lot of experience with Copley and knowing the district and knowing a lot of our information already. Huge learning curve with that, and that does save us quite a bit of money in the long run. And that was one of the determining factors in Copley Brothers and chosen as the final contractor. Okay. Does a member care to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve Copley Brothers Interiors as the vendor to perform the work necessary to complete the building moves associated with the district consolidation project for the summer of 2026.
Motion made by Director Nash, seconded by Director Durr, that we approve Copley Brothers Interiors as the vendor to perform the work necessary to complete building moves associated with the district consolidation project for the summer of 2026. The matter is up for discussion. Do you have any thoughts as the motion maker?
No, I don't. I mean, I should say that, I do. I mean, I think just the fact that they have history with the district, I think is, both well for them and us, honestly.
Anyone else?
Trust her, Matt. Good for you.
Yeah. Yep.
Trust what he's asking for.
Okay, all right. Question is the adoption of the motion that we approve Copley Brothers Interiors as the vendor to perform the work necessary to complete the building moves associated with the district consolidation project for the summer of 2026. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it, the motion is carried. Anderson Group Brokers contract.
Thank you, and as representing the Building Disposition Committee, we have Anderson Commercial Group here to talk with you about marketing Kosciuszko. So could we please welcome you up to the podium?
Good evening, I'm Patrick McGlynn with Anderson Commercial Group. Thrilled to be here. Thank you for your consideration.
No, sorry.
Rewind.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you for your consideration. I'm Patrick McGlynn with Anderson Commercial Group. I'm here to answer any questions you have. We presented a contract, a listing agreement specifically for Cudahy. The proposed plan is to market that property, to begin as early as possible, to get as much momentum as possible, to keep this as short as possible, this listing period. Our marketing plan is to create a brochure, marketing flyer, to publish this listing on all available commercial websites, and at the appropriate time, put a sign out in front of the school. Now, any commercial brokerage firm can do what I just said. The delta with us, with Anderson Commercial Group, is our existing relationships with other schools, and we have over 4 churches or 4 schools listed right now that happen to be church schools, and we're constantly having conversations with organizations looking for this type of property. We priced this property out at approximately $60 a square foot, which is what we find to be a market value for this type of property in the metro Milwaukee area. It's 3.5 acres, 42,000 square feet. I had a great addition in the mid-90s, I think it was, with the school, cafeteria, gymnasium. Any number of organizations would be thrilled to have this as their home. We work with daycares, we work with unique types of uses, shared office uses. There's a plethora of developers who would take a look at this and repurpose that building, use the, it's a crude expression, but one person's trash is another person's treasure. I know this is a property that you're divesting, but from what I've seen of it, from what I know of it, it beats the standard of what's currently on the market. Right now, we have a number of parochial schools listed in the metro area that we're seeing at or around that same price point. But to speak to the experience of parking, we want to accelerate this process. We don't want to let it go into disrepair and have it dismantled, parts out over time. I think the value is in the use of this building as it is right now. It's been improved properly, it's been maintained properly, and we'd love to get as much attention to it as possible. So, any specific questions? This is a brochure we put together, and our portfolio. What's unique about Anderson Commercial Group is we have a niche in religious and education properties, and that's we take a portfolio of our experience, current properties for sale, and previous ones that we've sold.
Would anybody like to make a motion before we go into discussion? Any questions? Sure.
Motion to approve the listing with Anderson Commercial Group for marketing the Cudahy Elementary School property.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Director Riccio, seconded by Director Nash, that we approve the listing of the Anderson Commercial Group, marketing the Cudahy Elementary School property. Matters up for discussion. You get first dibs.
I guess my first question is, you've got a lot of experience with educational and church type of listings.
Yeah.
How would you market our property? I mean, are you looking for a specific type of investor or developer, or you just start out on the website? I mean, how do you do that? Because I know when we went to sell the other property, we looked into and did do a zoning change so that we didn't potentially have another competing entity come into our school district. So how are we, maybe that's more of a general board question, is, but are we looking, or are we trying to, one, maybe do an RFP process to attract bids of potential developers and broker or buyers, or, you know, are we looking to maybe rezone, or are we just gonna list it and see what comes at us?
That would be my solution right there, is the market as much as possible. You have the ultimate say as the seller who you sell it to. You have control over that. If it's not an organization that you want to sell it to, then you have the authority to say no to it as the seller. If there are any restrictions that we should know about in our market, we can give advanced knowledge of that. If you don't want it to be sold to a choice school or charter school, that's,
Correct.
I assume.
Yes.
Yeah, so is the discussion with you before you actually post this, is our admin team going to be giving you direction, or is this the direction you're getting right now to say, hey, just take this and post?
Well, no, I assumed you weren't gonna sell it to a competitor. That's one of the things
Sure.
you know, there are, I wouldn't say a daycare is a competitor. That was one of the things that, just today, we reviewed a letter of intent for a $2.5 million proposal for a school in West Dallas from a daycare. And that was a very viable alternative, with the playground outside, with secure fencing, building as it is. It's a perfect opportunity. There could be a developer that takes it, and converts it to housing. So the shotgun approach or the wide open marketing, we can't predict what type of use is going to come forward and be the ultimate successful bidder on that property. But what we can do is limit who we expose it to and who we talk to about it. So from our, if we get a call from a school that's interested, we would say it won't be able to be sold to a school. Simply.
Is there any legality about, would that be considered discrimination based on, I have money, I would like to purchase this, but now you're gonna deny me the opportunity because I'm school or I'm a religious school?
That's my client's prerogative to do that. So if you're directing us to do that, we're not discriminating under most classes. We're limiting the availability of that property to certain providers.
That's
Mr. Johnson?
covered it all. Yep, thank you.
What is the length of this contract? I can't get into the. Yeah. Is it 12 months?
Yeah, it should be a 12-month contract. It's gonna be a while.
Just wanna make sure that we're not signing on something for.
27.
Okay.
So this really isn't for Anderson, but I was gonna say, I mean, we could sell, you know, if a developer is gonna buy it, who says that they can't turn around and sell it to a school after that, you know what I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, I'm not advocating that we sell it to anybody who we think is gonna put a school in there, but it could happen anyway, so. Sure. I don't know. We're a lot of control over it, I guess. Just do what we can, right? Yeah, do what we can, right? So, yep.
Any other further debate? You mentioned, and maybe this is a question more for administration, you mentioned putting in a for sale sign out front at an appropriate time.
Yes.
What does that mean? What appropriate time? Are we thinking holding off till after summer, putting it in fall, or is there like a certain value at a certain time of year?
No, not a certain time of year. It's just, we sell all sorts of occupied businesses, restaurants, hotels, all types of commercial property. It's sometimes not tasteful to do that while they're still in business. And I would say the same thing for the students and the staff at that school, not stick a for sale sign while the school's in session. So what I meant by that was after school.
Okay.
Now we would encourage listing it as soon as possible, and we can start marketing it as soon as possible, or we just put a sign.
Yes.
So I remember reading somewhere about your commission is 6% if there was to be a closing, but there was also something about additional, oh, there we go, compensation to others, a percentage to be determined by the broker, sole discretion is approved by cooperating firms. What does that mean?
Yeah, so in layman's words, what that is we're not fixed into splitting that commission equally among all brokers. For example, we'll split it equally with a commercial broker, but for example, if a residential broker were to bring it to us, we were stuck with the heavy lifting, doing all the work for someone who doesn't have any experience in this type of transaction. We wouldn't split our commission equally with that party. That makes sense. And we have the discretion to decide.
It's not an additional fee we'll pay, that's just of your 6%.
Correct.
Perfect. Thank you.
So would you say, given the condition of the property now, would you think there's anything that the district would need to do to upgrade or continue to spend money on? Obviously, the utilities and that, but I mean, is there anything else that you would need to be doing for that property?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I would suggest preserve it.
Right, oh, absolutely, I agree.
Yeah, prevent, you mentioned utilities is important, not only keep it heated, that's obvious, this time, not obvious this time of year, but keep it cool, keep it conditioned, so it doesn't get overly humid inside there, we have to run ventilation, air conditioning. That doesn't just provide us comfort going through it, it just prevents and also certain types of material. I don't want to say the M word. Yeah. But, also, in addition, prevent water infiltration and earthquakes, penetrations, that, you know, just simple things by preserving the property to protect the value.
And I assume that would also include like security systems and that.
Absolutely, alarm systems, fire spots, absolutely.
One last follow-up question. Do you anticipate there being any negatives that a prospective buyer might note? I mean, for instance, limited parking or residential area or anything like that?
I'm being facetious here, but buyers find everything negative, and even if there's not, they'll point things out that they can. Our job is to advocate on your behalf, and having the experience that we've had and knowing these types of properties as well as we know what's fact and what's fiction. So I believe this property is a very strong, well-preserved property. It's cool. I hope it doesn't go away. I hope it stays as it is. But I don't have any specific recommendation in any capital expenditure at this point in time, other than just preserve it. And you're always going to find people that chip away at aspects of it to try to lower the value of it, but yeah, it just rolls off our back.
I think Director Capella is hoping for a solution to the balanced budget this year. I know you heard that part, so maybe you could send some optimism or hope his way.
All right, great. Any further debate or questions? Okay, well, thank you for presenting and answering our questions. The question is the adoption of the motion that we approve the listing with the Anderson Commercial Group for marketing the Kosciuszko Elementary School property. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, opposed? Abstentions? Mike is in the bathroom. The ayes have it, the motion is carried. School Resource Officer, SROs, and school crossing guards. Very exciting. Garvin.
This is a renewal of the current plans that we have in place. Jimmy Sprague did meet with portions of the implementation planning team regarding some safety concerns earlier in the year. Is there anything you want to add or share with the board regarding those conversations? There were some issues brought up regarding the need for additional crossing guards.
Well, what was interesting is, yes, because right now we have 5 and we're gonna have 6, just so that we can have 2 at each elementaries and 2 at the middle school, and we'll just make it easier for all the students who could be walking. We also talked, and I know Michelle's been working with the city about just having, along with those 2 crossing guards, just examining some of the traffic patterns to see if there's anything different that we can do. But by adding the 1 crossing guard, it would just, it allows us to have 2 at each of the 3 schools. The high school's not had 1 and they've been okay. So that is the benefits of that.
Does another clear to make a motion? Okay.
Motion to approve the MOU for the school resource officers and the MOU for the school crossing guards.
Second.
Motion made by Director Durr, seconded by Director Nash, that we approve the MOU for the school resource officers and the MOU for the school crossing guards. Matters up for discussion.
I will just say that it's more of a comment than a question. I did talk to Chief Andrews and the city administrator after the last town council meeting. Chief Andrews literally, like, there is a very difficult, it is hard to not have 6 crossing guards because just so you know, if somebody calls in sick, it's almost impossible to get another crossing guard. And even though the police department is more than willing to come and do that. The chances of always having someone there and considering the fact that we will have so many more students walking, it's like imperative that we're thinking of school safety first for our littles and our middle school students. So they were very they really wanted to make this happen and do it with 6 instead of the 5. I happen to wholeheartedly agree on that. Also, after talking to the city administrator, they will be coming out. They're not going to do like a formal traffic study, but they are going to be going out to all the schools this school year to kind of observe some traffic patterns and to make sure that if they need to make some adjustments before the upcoming school year, that they are going to do that. So those are just my comments on that situation. You were next.
I concur with Director Turner. The other question I had, and I'm sure that you'll find the right spot for it, but with 2 crossing guards at each of the schools, I would assume that they might find more than one corner to cover, and that they might find the 2 busiest areas that they can help kids because of the, like you said, with the traffic pattern being a little bit different, there might be more of a need to have 2 corners covered at those schools. Otherwise, I'm totally fine with that.
Any other discussion?
Just kind of commenting off of this, I don't know if there's a way, you mentioned they're gonna kind of look at the traffic patterns this year. Are they gonna review in the fall?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then is it possible for them to potentially offer like training for like volunteer crossing guards? Like if there's parents that would be willing to like volunteer for like stand-in, because I know at schools like parents have mentioned like they would be willing to volunteer in situations. Like could we have like I don't know if there's a way that we could be just throwing that out there. If there's a need for it, we could have a old school phone chain and have like a volunteer like training set up or something with parents that would be willing to help. Just something to think about.
Yeah, I was one.
I was one. At Cudahy. At Lincoln.
So
You were talking about that, Rhonda, that Lincoln had them.
Quasi
Several years.
Okay.
Safety committee topic for Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if we'll get to it, because there's caveat.
Future agenda item.
Oh, well, future agenda item for us.
Can I just ask one additional question about the middle school? Do we know where they're gonna be? Like where the other one is gonna be? I know where the current one is stationed at that busy corner.
Yeah, I think that, I don't know if he changed his mind, actually. We can certainly work with them on the placement, and that kind of went to the traffic study that we were hoping to have done. So I know one of the thoughts was just straight across the street, because so many kids just crossed from right there. And then there was another thought, maybe they should go further down. But again, that was part of wanting the request in the traffic.
All right, any further debate? Okay, question is the adoption of motion that we approve the MOU for the school resource officers and the MOU for the school crossing guards. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? You guys have it, motion is carried. High school English curriculum.
Okay, so in a minute, I'm gonna give you guys some samples of the curriculum that we're gonna be talking about. The purpose of this report is to ask for adoption for Imagine Learning Study Sync for 9-12 for ELA curriculum. So I'm gonna pass these out. I'm gonna go through some of the general information and the timeline that went into this. And I'll talk about the physical impact. And then I brought Ann Pollock, who is our reading specialist at the middle school, along with me today. And I have Chris Hager, principal of high school. We all know them. I brought them along with me to give them a chance. After I go through this, I'm going to have Ann speak on how implementation has been going with Study Sync at the middle school so far, and some of the maybe challenges we're seeing, things that we like about the program, so we continue to hopefully to have that continuation from currently the 7th and 8th graders moving into the high school. And then Chris along too with some of the struggles that we've been seeing in the classroom and some of the recommendations that we've gotten, basically how we landed on study sync. So I'm gonna quickly give this to you guys to pass around. And then so this, you're gonna see like a novel it's just an example novel that can come with the program if we decide to purchase novels through them. You'll see teacher assessment guides, you'll see the student textbook, the student workbook, just some different examples of all the things that we included with the curriculum purchase. So just a general overview of Study Sync. It is with Imagine Learning. It previously was with McGraw-Hill, and that shifted over in December. Our hope for working with Study Sync is to have a viable, guaranteed high school curriculum all the way through that's aligned to state grade level standards. It will be aligned with our middle school literacy program and also aligns really well with Wonders at the elementary school level. This has a blend of print, digital resources, tools for differentiation, skill building, assessment tools. It provides foundational skills, English learners handbook, project-based learning tasks, test prep and practice, and word study. This curriculum did meet expectations on ed reports with text quality, usability, and building knowledge. Biggest timeline, so this is the intent of the previous C&I director when she did the curriculum review at Study Sync at the middle school, was to adopt it along at the high school the following year. So that recommendation was taken in the spring of 2025. In the fall, Chris and I, alongside Keys to Literacy consultants, really did have a needs assessment on the ELA department to discuss what are our challenges that we're seeing in the classroom right now, and what are some needs and what should we be pushing forward to help support our ELA teachers. In the fall to winter, Chris and I did a little bit of exploring and asking the surrounding districts and some other curriculums that they might be using and the success they might be seeing with that. So we got a little bit of recommendations from them, but had some positive reviews around Study Sync and decided to start moving forward with that. In the winter, we gathered some feedback from middle school staff regarding their use of Study Sync and how year one implementation was going. In the spring, we, like Rhonda had said, brought this up at the board committee meeting just to give a quick overview. And I know I had some conversations even with Lissa beforehand to say, hey, this is something that we're looking for, and was able to kind of talk about some of the concerns or questions that she might have had even read initially when we were talking about this. Moving forward, if this were to be approved today, we would have some extensive curriculum work to kind of something that Katie had brought up, asking about the novel selection. That is something that is incorporated in this curriculum. You could have multiple novel studies each semester. You could have one. There's a lot of flexibility and there's a lot of options, which is really nice. But that's going to be one of our main goals, is to pick out what we want to use, build our scope and sequence the way that we want to do it. And that will be done in the summer prior to the start of the year. And something that is really important to know, that with this comes a 3-year professional learning or professional development plan, which is really extensive. And I think that this is something that McGraw-Hill did not really provide us when we brought it in at the middle school. And Imagine Learning taking over has really given us full extensive, this is what we do in year 1 implementation, year 2 and year 3, and how they support us. Some of those examples are just providing an overview training of the curriculum with staff, helping them get ready and get started and have their first unit done, all the way up until their representatives will come into the building and do walkthroughs with leadership to help us go into classrooms and see how it's being implemented and see how we can support staff. So I'm really excited about the option of that, or the opportunity to do that ongoing professional learning that will come along with this program. The total cost of this adoption was $119,986.86. A large bill. So looking into that, I worked with the representatives to do kind of a phase payout option with that. So the first invoice, you can see I broke it into 3 invoices so that we would pay throughout the next 3 years, which fit much better with what my budget would be for any textbook curriculum purchases for the next 3 years. The professional learning would all be paid for in this first year, and that's why you can see that price is a little bit higher on year 1, which that's fine, but that gave me the opportunity to look into some other high need curriculum areas that we have. Otherwise, this would have been it. So that was really nice to see. So I think that's it for me for just like the overview. I want to give these two a chance to talk a little bit, and I'm going to go ahead and let you start if there's anything you want me to pass out.
So Jen is gonna pass out some copies of, scope and sequence for study safe for the high school. Working with the program at the middle school, what we noticed is that the way the program is designed is thematic units, there's 6 units. Our goal was to get through at least 4 proper prior to the forward exam, so our students would be exposed to the progression of skills that they would need and, their literacy. So the high school, when you're looking at the format that you have, on the left-hand side, you'll see a column that shows the thematic approach. And then on the right-hand side, you see a novel approach. I'll make an analogy, a hybrid car. You can either do the electric or you can do the gas, right? And you can decide which one you want to use. It's kind of how the program is set up. On the one side, it is more that thematic approach. And then on the right-hand side are the novel studies. And knowing how boards work and, concerns about what are our students being exposed to, types of literature, you can see with what's been handed out, what some of those novels would be. So I know that was one question that you had. There is a scope and sequence provided by the company if you go with the novel approach. I just made some copies of like one of those unit overviews where, say, you did a novel of mice and men, what might that breakdown look like? And then if you go with the thematic approach, I printed out one for each grade level as an example of the scope and sequence for the thematic approach. And it just kind of gives you an idea of the smorgasbord of opportunities there are. This is a product written for 50 states, and districts are expected to select out what types of materials and experiences they want their students to have to meet the needs of the standards that the district has identified and what meets the rigor and expectations of that state assessment that they take. So those are just some of the pieces of the curriculum to take a look at. Again, different from the middle school rollout, ours is more thematic based only. We have some units that are some novels that we could address, but again, we needed to get through the skills in the thematic portion of the program first. And I'm pleased to report, based on keys to literacy and our work with that group, they have us report our data out as a Lexile, which is basically at what level can a student read, what grade level of material can they handle based on how the wording is, the actual word levels that are in the text. And our 7th grade started, I'll just throw out a number, 1095 at the beginning of the year. At the end of the year, basically, in our 7th grade, we made 1.84 years worth of growth in 1 year, okay? And part of that success is because we standardized our learning experiences for teachers who are more able to work together to create supports for staff based on what we see with our students' learning experiences. In our 8th grade, they had some criticisms about the program, but they still made growth. And you have to take it with a grain of salt because it's not just the program, right? It's motivating kids to take tests and be accurate with what their abilities are. But I mean, even if you throw in a margin of error, 8th grade had 2.81 years worth of growth with this program in 1 year. And that's with a lot of coaching and setting things up for the program to be successful. So it does take work. We didn't have the supports that McGraw-Hill we wish would have offered, but it sounds like there'll be much more opportunity for the high school for that. So
Can I say something about that too? When we're talking about that professional learning, that's just a huge piece of this, I think. It's great to see that we're having that success at the middle school with Study Sync, but I know that with more support, it can't be just a year 1 implementation that has to continue. And I think that with the support that we have, if we were to move forward with this, that there's an opportunity for us to bring some of those 7th and 8th grade teachers along with this professional learning that we're doing in the high school. With that same program, it might look a little different. Some of their, obviously their lessons and that scope and sequence will look a little different. However, I think that they're offering us a lot more in-depth training that we can grab onto to help support our 7th and 8th grade teachers, especially with some new staff that we're gonna be getting next year. So it's an opportunity instead of having to get another representative to come in and train them, we can double that up, hoping, sorry.
Yeah, and I want to say probably the biggest challenge with the program is just knowing how kids learn, how people learn. The amount of repetition when skills are introduced, we need sometimes to supplement more than what the product would provide, which would mean look at what those learning experiences are and then recreate more of those experiences for our students. So it's like a framework that's there, but we just need to sometimes develop more supports to go along with it. We also can do more vertical alignment with the high school then, so that, hey, we're doing these skills in 7th and 8th grade, what will that look like as in high school, support those learning experiences. So all in all, it's been successful. The kids have been engaged. I think one of the biggest pieces is the rigor of what they're reading is more challenging, but then that they're reading it more than once and it allows for more problem solving and critical thinking, and that's what we're trying to do with our students. So we tell the kids, you know, it's not always about the story, it's about how you're thinking about it, what you're doing with that story. That's our real goal. And so I think the kids brought into the program, and again, we've seen some good success.
You said this with all due respect and admiration, it's very tough to follow, and you talk curriculum. No, seriously, why study sync for the high school? A variety of different reasons. In-depth analysis of what we are teaching in our ELA classes, 9 through 12, classroom visits, teacher interviews, analysis of curriculum. The biggest, I shouldn't say biggest, but another big factor is the word Ann used several times, growth. I would love to be able to tell you right now that we've seen 1.8 or 2.1, whatever it was that Ann was saying, years of growth with our students in 9 through 12 ELA classes over the last several years. We have, as a matter of fact, the only thing I can show you right now are things like school report card data, which is based on pre-ACT and ACT scores that we're actually going in the opposite direction. Okay, now there's a variety of factors beyond curriculum, we all know that. But if we have a viable, head reported, consultant requested or recommended, analyzed by us, and then recommended curriculum at the root of what we're doing, I have to believe that we're gonna start seeing more growth than what we're seeing. The other reality of life is that we work and live in a free agent market, quote unquote, with teachers, okay? We're looking at, unfortunately, again, replacing 2 of our staff members in our ELA department starting next year. When those teachers turn over, it is very beneficial for us to give those teachers coming in a viable, recommended, quality curriculum to follow, rather than what we have been doing. And no discredit to our teachers in our department in the past, but what we have been doing is basically saying, hey, new person, go talk to Jenna or Ale, other teachers in the department, to find out what they've been doing and creating. If we can give them a base that allows for flexibility. And again, I was once an ELA teacher. I understand and love the flexibility that this system offers. So I truly believe it is our best option at this time to move toward. And you know, yeah, we have teachers here who are a little nervous. It's something new, right? If I were them, I'd be nervous as well. But there is a lot of credibility in the education world, and just let's jump in and start using it and learn along the way and make adaptations along the way as we work. So I'm very much excited about the possibility, and hoping you all will approve what we're requesting. Thank you.
Make a motion?
I'd like to move to approve the adoption of the study sync for 9th through 12th grade ELA as presented, effective for the 26-27 school year.
Second.
Motion made by Director Riccio, seconded by Director Capella. That we approve the adoption of study sync for the 9th through 12th grade ELA curriculum as presented for the 2026-2027 school year. Matters up for discussion.
For the professional development, is that gonna be like before school starts, throughout the school year? Like, how long will that be? And you mentioned being able to offer it for our middle school student, or middle school staff as well?
Unfortunately, with the change in staffing, the question of having to offer compensation in the summer, like a lot of those factors, we're not gonna do it in the summer. However, I did mention that the opportunity for some summer work, because we're gonna have to kick out these novels, we're gonna have to have something done. So there will be some of that happening beforehand. But for the training and the PL, it's gonna start day one that teachers are back. So that's that first in-person, it's a full day on-site training, and that's continued throughout the year. So they have, in the package that they sent us, they're like, here's what we do year one, and it's like beginning, middle, end, that kind of a structure. So it's gonna be ongoing, and the plan is to utilize our CI days for some support there. And if we have to, after school type deals, or during their prep times, which the rest of the day can be flexible about too.
And is it virtual or in person?
Both.
Okay. And is it just year one or continued into year two?
Three years.
3 years,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
And then, that'll work kind of, like alongside then the work that's being done with
Keys to Literacy.
Thank you. I'm about to say school too.
Everyone does. Yes, absolutely. And I think that, I know that they're very excited that this was something we wanted to move forward with. They were excited that we brought it into the middle school. They highly recommended us move forward with that, so they have experience with it. But yes, it's gonna be alongside. So our ELA teachers, along with our other teachers though, they're gonna see a lot more people in their rooms, which I think is a great thing. It's not to watch what they're doing, it's to support them. I'm really excited about that, but I would like to leverage this to help support our middle school teachers that didn't, in my opinion, didn't get the level of support like this.
Okay, other debate, discussion. I have a follow-up to that. Will it be like collaborative professional development for all like the grade level teachers together? Are they going to be like collectively choosing certain options within the curriculum, or will that be more independent?
So they gave us kind of a variety of options, and when she explained it to Chris and I, it was almost like we have credits that we can use and we can tailor it to what we want. So there are certain things that they are like, yeah, like this is the onboarding training, it's the 6 hours, you'll have all of your teachers together in the room. But then for some of those walkthroughs, it's specific to grade levels, teacher teams, and then some of those credits that we use, or tokens, I think was the word that they use, that can be more tailored to what we need. So we want to use more on our 10th grade teachers need a little bit more support. So we're going to tailor and put a little bit more into that. So there's some flexibility. Yeah.
And then I think I asked this before, so forgive me, but when you look at like the courses that kids can register for at the high school level, there's obviously AP classes in the English curriculum, there are other classes, so because these are grade level, so what are they replacing? Does that make sense? Like, what are these years replacing as far as your actual coursework in that handbook?
Like when you see what you're holding there, where it says
Yeah, where it says like
12,
12th grade,
so that'd be English 7, 8.
Okay,
So our system, if you will, freshman is 1, 2.
okay,
Sophomores are 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
okay. Any other questions? Okay, the question is the adoption of the motion that we approve the adoption of study sync for the 9-12 grade ELA as presented for the 2026-2027 school year. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it, the motion is carried. 5-8 science curriculum.
Okay, so this report is to ask to formally adopt a program called Experience Science by Savvis as the new science curriculum for grades 5 through 8. This also would include a pilot for grades kindergarten through 4th grade. And I want to actually start with at the committee meeting when I first talked to you guys back on the 11th. Since then, I've done a little bit more talking with the representative of what the best avenue is. So the initial report that I got from them, what this included was full digital access for all of our teachers. And what that means is it can be virtual labs, interactive labs everything that you need for this program basically online, but then it also included all the student consumables, so workbooks. And with that cost, it was a lot higher. And because you were going to go through with that, they would give us the pilot for free. After doing some more discussions with science team and kind of really re-looking at that, there's an opportunity for us to print things that we need if we had full digital access. So before moving through with a 6-year commitment of getting work textbooks every single year, I decided to go with the route of having full digital access for our teachers. And with that, they changed the cost of the free pilot to like a little over $5,000. You might have seen that I updated that. I've been working and trying to get it updated, I know. So sorry about that, but I wanted to make a note of that because it was, initially when I talked about this committee meeting, I said it was free. So although it's not free, it's a very, very low cost to get that pilot for K through 4. So background on this wasn't initially a subject to review and look at a new curriculum. As most of you know, I'm looking at our curriculum cycle and trying to look at the needs assessment of what we actually need and redoing that curriculum cycle along with what needs to happen every single year within that curriculum cycle. This came up as a really high need and apparently has been talked about a lot, but for some reason this was skipped over. There are gaps and a lot of concerns of what our kids are coming up to the high school with their knowledge around science. And that's not any of our teachers' faults. It's having older curriculum at the elementaries, not having a lot of time for science instruction. There's all those things. And then at the middle school level, the curriculum they did have, they were using bits and pieces of it. It expired. And before I wanted to spend money on that, I really need to understand what we needed. And alignment, kindergarten through 8th grade made most sense to me. So with something like this would give us the opportunity to have something aligned. And within this budget, with the lower cost here, I believe I'll be able to do that with kindergarten through 4th grade, depending on how that pilot goes this year, if that's what we move forward with. So some things that Experience Science has, which is really great, it's very, very flexible. We can do this integrated. We can piece it out modular, where we have life science, earth science, things like that. We can make that adjustment as we want to. We'll have professional learning involved. St. Francis is also moving forward with Experience Science next year, and the CNI director has been talking about sharing the cost of professional development. We have already been talking about how we're going to split that and have our teachers come together during that first week back at school and share some of those costs. So that's an opportunity there, which I'm really excited about. Things along with the price that you're going to see, as I said, only covers full digital for grades 5 through 8. That's really needed, bringing the 5th graders up to the middle school and knowing that we have those gaps. We really for sure needed to have something that was aligned 5th through 8th grade. The pilot for kindergarten through 4th will include all of those workbooks and the digital access, which is nice. So a lot of the younger grades, they tend to like to have that workbook, and I think that's great for them to have that opportunity. This would be for 6 years. Some of the things, let me see this. I'm just excited to have a viable curriculum that they all can have. Oh, the labs. So physical labs, we have phos science at the elementaries. We have these physical lab kits all over the place. So you're not going to see in these quotes the physical lab materials. That's because they're very, very, very expensive. And as I'm understanding what materials we currently have sitting in storage in some of our buildings, we need to have a better understanding of the things we have that we can use. So we're going to be utilizing what we already have with our old phos kits, those materials that we can use, those non-consumable objects, speakers, things like that. Before I would ever move forward with looking to see what do we want to use or what do we need to purchase, because I could potentially do that in other avenues like Amazon or something like that. There's areas for us to share some of those lab kits across buildings, a lot of opportunity there. So that's why you're not going to see what about the labs? What about the physical doing the science? That's the reason why. I want to get a better understanding and work with the science team with what materials do we have, look at all of that first, use that first before we make any purchases there. But what's good about this program is that it is so flexible that there's fast track options. So we all know that there's not a lot of time to teach science. That's something that our teachers really struggle with. So if they have a longer period of time, they have their good solid 45 minutes, they know they have that. The curriculum offers that full 45-minute lesson and it gives it to them. If the teacher comes in and says, oh, today, we had we had a fire drill and we've only had 15 minutes for science. What are we gonna do? There's fast track options in experience that they can pull up and do that instead. So our teachers really liked the fact of how flexible it was, how we can use it with the different times, how everything was right there for them. It's very much station-based for the labs, so they will have like their materials, they set up their stations, kids can start and go to different stations for their science that day. So there's just a lot of flexibility, there's a lot of offerings, there's timely teacher support within the program as well. So if they have questions, they can chat right in the program. So a lot of things. It's standard aligned. It also includes state phenomenon. So like they'll be learning about specific Wisconsin things within their labs, which I thought was really cool, and that the kids would enjoy that. Some sample kits were given to our teachers across different grade levels, and they were able to use that with some of their kids this year just to kind of test it out. I got feedback from them with that. And then we had a rep come in and actually provide samples to all of our science teachers, kindergarten all the way through 8th grade, at the CI day, and they sat through that and got to ask all the questions that they had. And I got feedback from them around what do we see, what do you like, what are some holes, what are the gaps. I also included high school science teachers in that, science leads, so that they could also give me that feedback, say this is what we need, this is what we're seeing here. So it all came together. It was the traditional, I would say like maybe year-long vetting of all these different curriculums for science, because this came up as a pretty quick, a high need, but I had to move quickly on it. So it wasn't in the traditional sense of having a huge committee. However, if this is something we move forward with, I'm excited to build that starting with year 1 and really know, like figuring out, is this what we want to move towards with kindergarten and 4th grade after the pilot program, and really just have something solid that our teachers can use and our kids can enjoy. And I also just throwing it out there of the new staff we're going to have at the middle school, we needed to provide something solid, something we can give them that they can work with starting right away at the beginning of the school year, rather than saying, well, this is kind of what we've made, let's build something new. And so I'm hoping that will also help support our teachers in that way. So I kind of just went on a rant. I wasn't really looking at the cover sheet here, but I hope I covered mostly everything. The total cost is $57,109. That covers the about $5,000 pilot. That covers all the digital access for 5th grade through 8th grade, along with some like flashcards and some physical things that go along with it. Does not cover lab materials, but as I told you, we'll adjust through that. And this currently does not also include the professional development. But that's a small cost, and that's going to be worked with St. Francis to see how much that'll be and how much we want to include. We can do it for year 1, we can continue that, so there's some flexibility there.
Recommend to approve the adoption of experience science for the 5th through 8th grade science and K through 4 pilot as presented, effective the 2026-2027 school year.
Motion made by Director Riccio, seconded by Director Nash, that we approve the adoption of the experience science for 5th through 8th grade science as presented for the 2026-2027 school year. The matter is up for discussion.
Is up one question. So with the pilot for the 1 school year, do you have a cost estimate if we were to adopt or be presented with the actual curriculum for K through 4th grade the following year, or?
I did not request that from her, but I can get that. Like for the following year, right? Like if we were going to move forward with it, what would that cost? Kindergarten through 4th grade?
Right, because we only have access for that 5,000 and change, we only have access for 1 school year.
Yes.
For that cost.
Yes.
So could we get an estimate, just so we know looking forward to budget and plan?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Discussion?
Is the professional development going to be offered just for 5th through 8th or for kindergarten through 4th as well? All grades. Okay. And is that going to be prior to school starting or in school year?
Same as kind of what you said. I think my goal was teachers are waiting anxiously to hear what are we doing with this. They all really want something. Not that we haven't had something in the past. I don't want to talk Billy of that, but like they're excited about this.
Yeah.
So the planning starts right after this of what are we doing with our class kits? What are we doing with this? What are we doing with that? So we can start the inventory and then working with the science leads of what are our high needs. Summer work is all been based on what our high needs are and who would be doing that work. So that prep work will happen in the summer, but then because day 3 of our back to school school week. We have a full day scheduled where they're gonna break it up into grade level groups to provide just the initial, like the initial support. But I plan to have that ongoing throughout the year.
And is there money budgeted already for whatever physical supplies you may need for those hands-on experiences?
Yeah, and that was also my goal with trying to bring this cost down. Like, would I rather spend some of this money on instructional materials rather than having all those print off workbooks, you know? That was part of the intent there, was to put that down so I could allocate that money depending on how much of those materials we need. And I won't know exactly that cost yet because we want to vet with what we have first. But what's nice about this is there's a lot of things that she said you can find around the house. So it's there's some kits that cost $3,000. There's some that only cost $200. So the science team and myself, we need to go through and figure out what we actually want to do before we're answering yes.
Okay.
That's the goal of bringing this cost down.
Other discussion?
Also, just a general comment, as we're looking at potential costs for these additional things that are learning for reading, is it that form to put out there a wish list on our school district website for donations specifically for X, Y, and Z? Or is that bad form? We can do a lot of things.
That's something that we're allowed to do. I don't see why we don't utilize any avenue. You know what I mean? Like, if we find that our teachers really want to do the planting lab, I'm throwing that out there, but if we know we need to get a lot of soil, and how much is that gonna cost us? Like, I think we can look into different opportunities, and I think Terry's also really good at that, and so she could also help me with something like that. So yeah, I think there's a lot of potential there. Anywhere that we can save money. Yeah.
Any other discussion? I just have one brief point of clarification.
Yeah.
For the full digital, that's for 5-8, meaning the students will have full digital access. They'll be doing all their work on their Chromebooks. Like, for the most part, or like the program is on their Chromebooks versus like an actual textbook or anything that's like hands-on.
Right, so both of them, both the K through 4 and the 5 through 8 will both have the full digital access. The K through 4 will also get those student workbooks.
Okay.
But you can also print everything out online. So before I wanted to, again, like, say, yes, we want all of it, I think we have the opportunity to pick and choose, and we can print those in-house, which might be a little more cost-effective for us. But it's not that they're gonna be sitting on their computers all day. At the middle school level, can those kids handle that more? Yes, like more than the younger kids, but that would not.